on LinkedIn this morning a little bit, and I don't know if you can see the snow. It is snowing again today. So we had spring cleaning a few days ago. It was 70 degrees, and now it's back to, I think the car said 36. So chatting on LinkedIn with some people about sharing some of our parenting struggles on publicly, and got some feedback about that idea. People feeling like maybe it's not appropriate to share our struggles as parents. And I think part of it comes back to not feeling supported as a parent. So if you maybe not complain, but if you post about how there's your toddler's not eating, you're likely to get 5 or 6 different comments telling you to do different things, and hardly anyone seems to just be giving you a space to just say like everyone thinks they know how to solve the problem, instead of just listening to you, which oddly enough, when I think about democratic schooling, that's one of the things that a community really does, is they listen to each other. And they don't always come in and just tell them what to do. They just listen. And sometimes that's all you need. Now maybe there is a time for advice, and setting time aside to talk more deeply about stuff. Not talk more deeply, but dig a little bit deeper and say, well, let's look at what you're doing. Let's look at how you're organizing your day, and if you want to fix this problem, let's take a closer look. Instead of just giving some one-size-fits-all explanation in the comments. And maybe that's part of what is keeping people from sharing these things, because they don't feel respected, they don't feel heard, and I think that's really important. What are a question that I'm wrestling with this morning is, how many students are not finding a passion? One, because they either don't have enough time, because they're kind of being pushed into little things here and there, or because they don't have enough opportunities. For example, poor neighborhoods, they just don't have the resources and experiences to discover new things. Now there's a flip side to this. How many students are actually picking a passion or picking a career path based on the freedom they think that it will afford them? And I think that number is probably pretty high. In our society, I think money equals freedom. And so high-paying jobs afford a lot of freedom to students. And I don't think that those students would be pursuing those jobs if they were living in an environment that was conducive for finding a passion. And I think that a democratic school would do that, because you wouldn't be forced to learn anything that you didn't want to learn. So you would have all this extra time to be pursuing a passion. And I think that would be really powerful. I think that could have been huge in my life. I would have found out early that either I loved music and I would have pursued it more and more, or that music was a little too hard and I would have gone on to find something else. But since I never got to scratch that itch, I just kind of kept, I don't know, to use that metaphor, I kept trying to scratch it and sort of falling short. So it took a lot longer to figure out that that wasn't what I wanted to do for a living. Now I still play music, but I don't want to tour, and I don't want to book shows, and I'm not that passionate about it. So that's what I was thinking this morning. All right, getting started on a few things this morning. Looked at a proposal for a product that I'm working with a couple on from California, using choice theory within ministry too. So I'm helping, I'm not exactly sure how I'm helping that product yet develop. I met them at the product and branding workshop in Oklahoma City, with the William Glasser Institute. Really interesting talking with them, and so I'm going to send them back some feedback on that. I love the model. It's basically a training program for pastors and lay persons to use Glasser's methodology, reality therapy, in the interactions with the congregation. Now, how this relates to the school is, one, there is a networking opportunity, a chance to provide value to someone who sees or interprets the world in a similar way as I do, both through Scripture and through the lens of choice theory. But two, the methodology of reality therapy, I see aligns with democratic schooling so much, because it's so much of it is built on consent. The counselor doesn't say, this is what you need to do. They might say, based on what you've shared about what you want to do and how your process is going so far, this is a direction you could go. And I love that. So it's very empowering to the listener, but also very effective as well. So got another thing I'm looking at for that's not real related. I'm working with some friends of mine who are starting a company, and I'm not consulting with them, but I'm allowing them to use our office space as they kind of start up. So what they're doing is allowing me to see the process of starting their business. And they've both started businesses before, so I'm really looking forward to that process, and I think they're out at lunch right now. So I'm looking forward to talking with them about some business basics and some things about just getting started with stuff. All right, I'm trying something new here. I downloaded the Streak app for Gmail. So we have a CRM set up in our Microsoft stack, but I'm not liking the way that it's working. So I downloaded the Streak app. It was recommended by a friend of mine, and so I'm now just kind of looking at some of that training. So we have the timeline. So we'll go next there. Oh, it's not letting me do that. It's not letting me click on that. Okay, so I'll go back to the screen. Nope. Got to figure this thing out. I guess I'll have to pause this. Okay, now it goes. So we add new content there. There's details, okay, context. Okay, so here's a pipeline view. Okay, so here I think we're talking about the kinds of people that we're reaching out to. This is something that is in our CRM, but I think it's just been a little too complex. This looks, especially with it being nice and colorful, looks like it might be easy to follow, and I think I can actually edit some of these. So I can sort of track the process. Just like a spreadsheet, you can update the fields, okay. You can add extra columns. So here I think what will be important is, since I'm building a network at the same time as, since this is almost like a side hustle. So I think what I'm kind of doing is almost like market research, where I know I have some skills that can be used,
and I'm trying to sort of track, where I'm get an idea of where I'm getting traction. One of my conversations early last week was about web development. Well, I'm not a web developer, but I can do some WordPress type stuff for people who don't know what they're doing. So there's ways that I can provide value and not charge anything. I, I don't want to charge anything for web development because I'm not a professional, but they also don't have a budget for it. So um, I could help introduce them to some developers when they reach that stage. So that's kind of what